This vehicle is my body, and my soul is something that's driving the body. And I'm here to just explore what's around me, to try create things and just play, just have fun. That's the beauty of life, is to be able to think and not to be told. We should always be to some level uncomfortable in our life. If we're too comfortable, we're not learning.
Do you follow any kind of diet? How important is diet when it comes to training?
I don't believe in diets. I also don't believe in extremities. What's happening inside of your body. So not just externally, but also internally, intrinsically. What's happening with your digestion? What's happening with your insides? Can you actually identify how these things feel? Can you identify what pain feels, what discomfort feels like, what your limits are, and to be able to act upon that without actually ignoring it, ignoring what your body's telling you.
Are mushrooms part of your diet? William Soo, welcome to the Deeply Aligned podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are curious about many things about you. And that are those things that we're going to try to uncover in this podcast. But starting on that topic, what do you think are something or some things that people may not know about you?
People don't know about me.
Yeah.
Well, one thing could be that actually I work as a graphic designer, and I have been for about 18, 19 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my first job that I did when I graduated university. And it's something that I love doing. Obviously, I've been doing it for such a long time now. But I guess in the past 5 years, I kind of felt a little bit over it, as you would, doing anything for too long. So that's why I kind of transitioned my way into fitness. But the reason why I like doing graphic design is because it's creative. And I think as human beings, we need to be creative in one way or another. And so that was my first outlet of being creative. So I think that'll be one thing that people wouldn't probably assume they know about me, considering I look quite big. Every time someone asks me or I tell them I work as a graphic designer, like, what? No way, you're like this big guy that probably looks like he's on steroids or something.
I would never have thought either.
So they're all shocked. But yeah, that's probably one thing that probably wouldn't know about me.
Yeah. It seems like you're way more creative than a lot of people think. And that's not just because of the graphic design, but also I think we're going to uncover in your fitness journey as well, of how you view things.
I think we're born creative. Like as babies, we're creative because we're a sponge, and we don't know anything. So we just want to explore and figure things out. But I guess as we grow up, we learn different systems. We get taught how to think and do things. And so we stop learning when we stop being creative and thinking outside the square. And so that's why I think it's super important to actually kind of keep being curious. And to be curious, you need to be creative. You need to be have some kind of creative expression in one way or another. It doesn't have to be design. It can be fitness, can be drawing, can be business. There's always ways to find creative solutions to things. So I think being creative is super important.
Yeah. Creative outlet there. And one of your creative outlets is obviously fitness. How did you get into fitness? And
how did I get into fitness? So I think it was when I was younger, much younger.
How young are we talking? Because I know you have a background as a basketball player a little bit also.
Yeah.
Before you
went to fitness though, actually. It was, well, I used to play basketball when I was in high school a lot. But then I got a part-time job working at a pet shop. And it was a lot of heavy lifting 20 kilo, 25 kilo bags of like pet food. And I got to the point where I actually injured my lower back, because I didn't know how to lift at that time. And I was probably around about maybe 16 years old, didn't know anything better. And they never really taught you how to lift or how to lift bags in that way. And so I had this lower back problem, had to quit the job, and then I had to figure out how to fix it. And so that's when I started going to the gym, and I tried to figure out how to actually make my back feel better. So that's kind of where it all started. And it kind of stemmed from there, You focus on rehabbing yourself, but at the same time you're lifting weights, trying to get stronger. So then it got quite addictive. I was like, oh, this is really fun and new. I'm getting bigger muscles. At the same time, I'm rehabbing myself so I can move better again. And yeah, that's how I kind of started getting into bodybuilding. It kind of got addictive. I think anyone at my age at that period of time would have been in that stage where they're just trying to get jacked, trying to get massive. It's just the thing to do at that point in time. And so I did that. I did that for about 5 years.
Bodybuilding for 5 years?
I wouldn't say it was like full hardcore bodybuilding.
Yeah.
It was more like just trying to get big for the sake of getting big.
Yeah.
And then there's a few friends saying to me, "Oh, you should enter a competition. You got like a pretty good physique." I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's not really my thing." But then I thought about it. And I thought, yeah, why not? I'll just try enter one just to see how it goes. But I think for me, it was more about trying to overcome the fear of being up on stage. Because growing as a kid, I hated talking in front of people. When you're in a classroom, the teacher tells you, "Hey, you gotta like read this text out in front of everyone." I'm like pinching myself. I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up in a way where I just didn't like the attention. And so I found that this could be a good opportunity to actually overcome that fear. Even though I'm not talking, I am up on stage, the lights beaming on me, and I'm showing myself. So yeah, that was the reason why I did the bodybuilding competition for my purpose, but also just to see how it would go anyway. And I did it, and it was super fun, but not something that I would probably do again.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of started my fitness journey.
Would you say you've been overcoming that fear today? That it helped a lot? Because I mean, I've been in plenty of your classes and that's not really coming across these days. And now you're sitting here at the podcast as well. And like,
I think these are all different experiences. Even when I started coaching, it's just a different experience. Being up on stage, trying to teach people, a group of people, how to do things, to be able to talk clearly, to be able to demonstrate and instruct. That was a skill that I never really had before. And so I was kind of thrown in the deep end at that stage. This is at Nirvana when I started learning how to coach.
Yeah.
And it was a very daunting experience for me. Very daunting. I was not confident at all. And I found myself talking really quietly because I wasn't confident. And, obviously I got feedback from people saying that I was too quiet, they couldn't hear me. And in my head, I was like, why? I feel like I'm actually talking quite loud. But my voice wasn't really projecting enough because I just wasn't confident. And so it's the same thing when I kind of do these kind of things. It's just a different experience. So it's trying to overcome that. But, I think you have to do it in order to overcome these things. It's like you need to gain the experience. You need to just put your foot in the door and just do it. Otherwise, you're just gonna succumb into this fear of just not doing things.
Yeah. It's something you gotta overcome sooner or later.
Yeah, and I think, as human beings, we're here to learn and grow.
Yeah.
So if we don't do it, then we're not growing. So what's the point of living, I guess? Might as well just be dead.
Yeah, I agree. So if we backtrack a bit with the bodybuilding, what made you transition from that into calisthenics?
Yeah, so I competed and I finished that. And I came to a point where I was thinking to myself, what do I do now? Do I keep bodybuilding? I mean, what's the goal? What's the point? I can keep getting bigger, but I just didn't really find much purpose in it anymore. And at the same time, I felt like I really couldn't move well. I felt really big. And to the point where my t-shirts, the sleeves were like super tight. And then the waist area was just super wide. And so I found myself, going shopping. I had to get like tailored-made t-shirts, which is just not ideal. So I thought, what's the next best thing I could do that is kind of similar, where I could transition in a way where it would be less of a shock. And so I thought bodyweight movements, calisthenics, in conjunction with doing some weights to transition my way there. And yeah, I found it super fun. It was super challenging. Anyone that has done bodyweight movements or come from a bodybuilding background and then try to do bodyweight movements will find that it's totally different and it's actually quite hard. Like lifting an external weight away from you or towards you, as opposed to lifting your own body weight, is like a completely different ballgame. And so I found enjoyment in doing that. I found curiosity, and I was like, wow, this is a massive challenge. Before I couldn't actually control my body very well, but now I have to actually try to figure out how to actually lift my body and move it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw people back in the day, there wasn't much actually influences out there, people doing calisthenics. So I saw some things on YouTube, like who was this guy? One guy was Frank Madrano, and there's this guy, I can't remember his name. He's a black guy. He was super jacked, and he was just doing crazy stuff. And there was no tutorials at the time, so it was a lot of kind of trying to discover how to do these things. There really wasn't that much information as there is now today. So I found enjoyment in trying to figure out things. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into calisthenics. I found it was just easier way to transition to something where I wasn't going to lose as much muscle mass. But in the end, I lost like 7 kilos of muscle mass anyway. So that was quite a shock. And I think that was something that I was also scared of. Because it's like when you have something, you don't want to lose it.
It's part of an identity almost, yeah.
Yeah. So I identified myself with this massive mass of muscle that I had. And I was trying my best not to lose that muscle mass while I transitioned to calisthenics, which is why I was trying to do weights. But then I couldn't maintain that muscle mass. It's just, I wasn't giving my muscles enough stimulus to be able to hold that much muscle. But since it was quite progressive, it was something that I learned to just let go of over time. It was, I need to trade in this muscle in order to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly.
life. It's a give and take.
Trade-offs there. Trading in muscle mass and strength for more mobility and functionality. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even when I was doing calisthenics, I wasn't that much more functional because I wasn't really focused on mobility at the time. I didn't know much about mobility. But it was just more about just trying to just gain a little bit more freedom and a little bit more body awareness by doing calisthenics and doing cool stuff at the same time.
What was some of the skills that you saw Frank Medrano and these other guys doing that you were like, wow, that would be cool and fun to be able to do?
Stuff like, when I look back at it now, it's just like really basic stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, muscle up, front lever, back lever, one arm chin up. And yeah, like I said, at the time, no one was doing that stuff. And so I thought, wow, that's crazy. So I want to do that. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of just trying to figure it out and trying to doing it. But yeah, if I look back at it, like now, what people do these days, it's like nothing. That stuff is like super basic.
Yeah.
Super basic.
That's what I'm starting to understand now. It's like started with tennis and gym and then maybe some CrossFit, but then calisthenics, I'm like, wow, handstand, muscle ups in rings, everything, handstand push-ups, front levers, all of this. Like, wow, there's a lot of things one can do with then the body.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. And that's just in the sphere of calisthenics.
Yeah. If
you look at all the other modalities, there's just so many more things you can do as well.
Combining things, yeah.
But yeah, there's only so much you can do at the same time. So you have to kind of choose what you like for that period of time. And if you want to do something else, you can move into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your bio says, just a soul passing through this plane, exploring, absorbing, creating and playing. What do you mean by that? And is there a deeper spiritual meaning behind it?
That's something I wrote quite a long time ago when I was creating my Instagram page, but I just kind of found myself that I'm just in this vehicle. This vehicle is my body, and my soul is something that's driving the body, and that we're only here for a period of time. And I guess everything is so much more expansive. I like to see things in a way where it's not just what you see is what it is. And so I think the more you open your eyes, the more you can kind of let go of things and not be so attached. And so I felt like, well, I'm just this soul in this vehicle, which this body is my vehicle. And I'm here to just explore what's around me, to try create things and just play, just have fun. So it's just a playful way of looking at things and not being too serious.
Yeah. I'm super curious, like, what made you realize that? So at what point did that become a thing, a realization?
I think it's probably from my previous ex-partners. Most of my ex-partners were all spiritual, or they could see stuff or feel things. And for me, I was super, super numb at that time. I did not feel anything, see anything, and I still don't really. I'm very much more of a logical person. And so trying to convince me that these things exist, these spirits and souls exist, is like, it's nonsense to me.
I'm with you on that back in the days.
But over time, I was kind of convinced where I started to see things that did not make sense. And so that kind of opened my eyes up to these things. And then when you read books from like Eckhart Tolle and other people, then you kind of see that the world is so much more expansive and bigger than just what we see now. And so that's kind of how I see things. It's like things exist even though we can't see them. Like air, you can't see air, but it exists. And it's just a matter of accepting and knowing and being open to the idea that these things can be there.
Yeah.
As opposed to being just closed and no. Yeah, I think the more open, receptive you are, then things will be more easier for you in life to accept and to let go.
100%. Let's save a lot of that for later. When people are asking you, like, what are you training for? Do you have any goals? What's the point of what you're doing? What's your answer to that?
Look, I do have goals, long-term goals and short-term goals. But if I break it down, I just want to explore. I just want to see what my body is capable of. Because it's very easy to just go to a gym and see people doing all these conventional movements. And it's very easy to just do the same thing, but you don't really learn much about yourself. I mean, you'll learn some movements, you learn how much stronger you can get or weaknesses that you have, but it's very linear. So for me, it's like I wanted to not be that black sheep, but to just not care what people thought or think or say and just do what feels right and just try to curb my curiosity. And so that's why you see the things that I do now. It's kind of a bit odd. Maybe not as odd now because I see there's a lot more people doing it on social media. I played back in maybe a few years ago. It was a little bit more weird. Like, why are you doing that? But if you see me doing weird things, it's probably just like how I put it is it's mobility on steroids. Like, so I was putting my body in positions where I'm loading it and using my own body weight. And so it can be quite seen as extreme, which, yeah, I guess it is to some degree extreme, but that's relative to the individual. So for me, I found enjoyment out of that, enjoyment out of the whole idea of the creative process of how far can I take this? What are the limitations? And figure out how do I actually get there. So maybe if someone else wants to learn one day, I could teach them or go through the process with them. What things to be aware about in terms of, you could injure yourself this way if you do this, or this is a better way of doing it. Just trying to make it more suitable to their body. So I started exploring these kind of different things from my body, through my shoulders, through my knees, through my ankles, through my hips. Obviously, I'm still far from where I want to be. I'd love to be able to do more creative things in terms of exploring deeper ranges of motion. And I think the more range of motion that you have, the more creative you can be.
Mm.
The more restricted you are, the less you can move, the less creative you can express yourself. So if you ask me what my goal is now, it's to be able to move my joints, move my limbs, move my spine, move my body in different ways where I have the strength to control them.
Mm.
So then I can express it in a way where it can be quite weird. Maybe not weird, but different.
Yeah.
And explorative. And just feeling what the sensations are. What are my limitations here? How can I integrate it into other different movements or modalities? And just understanding myself better, understanding my body better, and what I can potentially do with it.
Mm. Super cool. I love that. If you could share like 1 or 2 goals, maybe one long term or one short term or something like that.
Yeah. So I have long-term goals. One of them right now would be super deep handstand push-up, which I think is called the dive bomber handstand push-up. It's basically where you do a handstand push-up, but you fully extend the elbows at the bottom. So you go all the way down deep. That's something that I'm trying to do. The limitation I'm having at the moment with that one is I'm experiencing discomfort in my hand here. I get bruising when I go all the way down because I think when I grab the parallel, it jams in this point and it pulls it in and it kind of bruises it. So that's one kind of limitation I'm having, that I'm trying to explore ways to overcome that. But in terms of short-term goals, they're very coming and going. Like I do have a play day once a week. And that's a day where I just try different things, explore, see what's capable. And then from that, I might come up with like, oh, this could be cool. And sometimes I might be able to do it or be close to be able to do it. Sometimes I can't do it and I just train for it. And so this is where the short-term goals are. I kind of call them like little side quests. And I might spend like a month, probably 2 months max, in training it. And then I'll do it. Once I've done it, I'll let it go and then I'll move on. For me, it's just fun that I can just think of an idea and then train for a little bit and then let go and go to something else. And maybe I might revisit that movement later down the track if I could feel like maybe I can integrate this with this and let's see how it goes. So most of the times when I do these little short-term goals, I might have the strength to be able to do it, but I don't have the awareness or the technique to be able to do it. So this can be quite dangerous sometimes because I don't have the conditioning for that particular movement. And therefore, when I do it, I'm very unfamiliar with it. And if I keep loading it, that's where bad things can happen, which has happened in the past.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot from those experiences, for sure. But that's kind of generally how my little short-term goals stem or come from. And I think it's important to have those while you have your long-term goals. Because I think it's very easy to get demotivated when you have just maybe a few long-term goals and it takes forever to get there. You always kind of go up and down. You don't know if you're progressing or not.
Yeah.
So having these little side quests just keeps you going while you go for these other goals too.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
A couple side quests, couple of milestones, mini goals. But yeah. Do you have any mentor or anyone who's helping you or guiding you in any kind of way?
Not really. I did learn a lot when I was at Nirvana. Obviously, I had Ian and Johnson, the co-founders there, that were mentoring me to some degree and to help be able to be a coach there and coach. But in general, I would just go to social media and just see what's out there. Because there is a lot of information out there. And so you have to kind of sift through it all and decipher things and to see if it actually is relevant to you. So would kind of cherry pick things. Like I'd say, I don't know about that. This one, that kind of makes sense. And you try to integrate it. You try to apply it to yourself and see how it works. But I think it's super important to think or critically think about this information that's actually out there and to question it and to see if it actually does work or not. Because sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not, and it might work for you, but it might not work for other people. So then it kind of stems off to different things where you have to figure out how's it going to work for this person if it doesn't work for that person, but it works for me. So it's kind of like there is no right or wrong. I think it's all just a massive big puzzle that you need to figure out. And so that's what makes it challenging is you have to constantly think. So I think it's good to have it would be nice to have a mentor, but at the same time, it's like reading a book. You can get so much information from a book, but it's only one source. It's only one perspective. And it's like, how much do you actually use that information from that book? How much do you actually remember? You only probably remember the parts that relate to you or connect with you. And that's probably maybe like 10% of that book. So yeah, well, I think it's good to have a mentor. I think it's good to see different perspectives. Is how do you actually use that information and apply it to yourself and to others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a particular person that you look up to a bit extra?
I won't say there's a particular person, but I think if you ask me what inspired me initially, I'd say Ida Platel and Rory Gold. I found inspiration through their movements and how they did things. Not so much about their system and how they thought. I thought that was a little bit dogmatic. But just seeing people do different things, I think, is what kind of inspires me. And that's what triggers thoughts in me to try something else. But I want to say there's really one specific person. It's more like people that I just kind of see things and take or try to figure out how it works or maybe connect things together. But yeah, there's no one person I would like seek information from. I think that's a mistake. I think it's always good to just get lots of different information from lots of different places, hopefully reputable places, and then just see what makes sense to you. So
yeah. When it comes to your one-on-one coaching, you're focused on calisthenics, strength, conditioning, mobility, and flexibility. What do you see are the most common challenges among people?
The most challenging things that I find from doing one-on-one is probably keeping them accountable, or maybe even having them understand that this stuff takes time. Any of these bodyweight movements, flexibility, working on mobility, it's not something that comes within a few months, which is generally what my programs are at the moment. It's either like 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. But people will always go for the 2-month option first. And they'll probably expect things to just happen within those 2 months. And when they realize they weren't able to get to where they wanted to in 2 months, they're like, oh, why is it so slow? So I think it's setting their expectations into these things and to be patient, to actually appreciate the journey as opposed to, I want this. And I think more often than not, even though they're seeking a particular goal, it's not what they need. It's what they want, but it's not what they need. And so it's also trying to shift them or gear them towards what they actually need. And then, give them a taste of what they want at the same time so they keep going. But I think that's one of the things that I find that I have a lot of clients have issues with is expectations and keeping themselves accountable. I think it's very easy to lose motivation.
Yeah. It sounds like you're touching upon a theme here of like accountability, discipline, and then also setting expectations right, that things takes time. But what's one of your favorite type of clients that you like to work with?
One of my favorite type of clients I like to work with is one that appreciates the journey, appreciates the process, that is open to different things, that is coachable and actually listens, as opposed to try to do things their own way while they're trying to do what I'm asking them to do. But just, yeah, someone that's just open to the process and puts their trust and faith into me, into what I believe, what will work for them. Because for me, it's also, I'm trying to, everyone is a puzzle. So I'm trying to solve this puzzle, which is them. Because everyone's going to have their strengths and weaknesses. Everyone's structures are all different. So it's a matter of how do I actually figure them out so they can get to where they want to and give them what they need in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah. What are some of the most common ways that people, more like self-sabotage, that they might go into training for themselves or training with a coach and they're really not getting good results for certain reasons?
I think when it comes to these kind of things, it's not just one thing that's going to help you. So if, like, say, for example, someone comes to me and they want to work on a particular skill. So I give them a program to do that, but then the recovery is off. They're not sleeping enough, they're partying, they're drinking alcohol. These are things that I can't control. And mindset actually has a massive role to play in terms of these things, because it all comes from the mind first. So which is I also work on the mindset as well in one of my tiers. So the more you can kind of align everything together in terms of your recovery, in terms of your diet, in terms of your training, then it's going to be much more easier to get to where you want to go. So I think people kind of self-sabotage themselves in a way where they think that, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get there. But they don't realize that, oh, I have to actually address all these other things as well, which is super important. It's a massive part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holistically there. Yeah. See where we're gonna go next here. Besides your fitness goals or fitness aspirations, what are some more personal aspirations and goals that you have?
Let's see. I feel like these goals are still somewhat fitness orientated. So for me, it's like fitness / movement / moving is a massive part of my life. And it's not something I can see without. So I feel like it is an integral part of my life. So I would love to be able to open a gym or a space where I can freely express what I want to do, create my own content, do retreats, bring people in, just create a space where everyone is welcome to explore, to move, and to create their own, whatever that might be. That is something I'd love to be able to do. But besides that, I'd love to be able to travel around the world and to be able to do retreats and just share what I have to share in terms of my knowledge, my experience, and to help people. I think at the end of the day, if I look at these two goals, the overall theme here is to be able to help people. So helping people, giving back, I think that's kind of not just my purpose, but I think that's everyone's purpose if they don't realize it or not.
Yeah.
Is to be able to give back and to help and to share. Yeah, so that would be my goal at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so much agreeing with that. It's about helping people, feeling fulfillment and purpose in that. You've been at Nirvana for 4 years as a coach. Could you expand on your thought process behind of what were the things that didn't allow you to help people in the way that maybe you wanted fully over there and made you take a career change?
Yeah. So Nirvana, when it first opened, was more of a gymnastics strength conditioning gym. It was a very bare bones gym, just an open floor, some rings, bars, door bars, weights. And so that kind of gym opened up the path to where people need to explore themselves. And so I love that process of being able to help them in that regard. But at the same time, Bali is a super transient place where you get people coming and going constantly. So I always saw people literally coming and going. You would get some people that stay for a month, 2 months, 3 months. They go away, they come back for another month. But for the majority of the people, they're there for like a week, maybe even just a day pass, and they're gone. And so I found that was quite discouraging as a coach because you couldn't really see progress. You couldn't track progress. It's more like, yeah, I'll just do a class for you and never see them again. And so I think as a coach, as a person I would want to help people, you want to be able to do this for long term. Seeing them actually progress, constantly taking classes or seeing them constantly or doing personal trainings for them, wherever it may be. But I think that was kind of a demoting aspect of training at a gym in Bali. And I think the reason why I left Nirvana was it was just a change in culture. They just shifted their values, shifting their goals, and I just didn't align with mine anymore. And so that's why I'm currently not coaching in Europe at the moment. I'm kind of taking a break and just saving my energy for myself at this point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, taking on more clients that's actually doing a 6 months program is obviously way more fun to see the progress there rather than someone doing a couple of weeks or a month.
Yeah, like I said, it's all about solving a puzzle, right? And so you need time to actually solve that puzzle.
Solve the bigger puzzle, yeah.
Yeah, you can't just solve like a 2-piece puzzle, which is not really going to solve anyway. And then it's gone. It's like, what's the point? You don't really learn much.
Yeah.
But in a sense, you do see a lot of bodies. So it forces you to try to correct people's bodies in a very, very short amount of time. Like you see, oh, this could be put here, this alignment could be better here. And to be able to do that in a class quite quickly, especially when you have a class of like 20, 30 people, it's quite important to be able to just bam, 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 bam. So you're giving everyone some sort of cue or something for them to work on, as opposed to like spending like 30 seconds with this person and this person, and then the other people just don't get any attention at all. So it helped him in that regard, in regards to being able to just see things quicker and to be able to identify things quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been asked this hundreds of times before, where do you follow any kind of diet? How important is diet when it comes to training?
I don't follow any kind of diet. I am more intuitive in terms of what I eat. I think it's important to stick to something consistently, but I think it's also important to figure out what actually works. What are those things that you need to stick to consistently to make things work for you? So for example, when I say that, it's like when I was younger, I used to drink a lot of milk and I was all good and well with that. But at some stage, something just clicked and I couldn't drink milk anymore. It was super weird. I just had to go to the toilet every time I drank milk, or eat ice cream for that matter. And so I had to cut that out and I had to just substitute for different things. And so I think this just happens, the process of just aging. Our body is constantly changing. Things are always changing on a very microcellular level. So it would make sense that things can happen quite quickly as well. And so you need to be quite intuitive and feel what's happening within your body, and listen to it in terms of what is it telling that you actually need. Because more often than not, if you have that craving, then you kind of need it to some degree. And it's not in great amounts that you need it, but it's there telling you something. So I think a lot of people just don't listen to it, or they're not very in tune, or they're not very aware, and they just eat like whatever. But I think it's important to have something consistent, whatever that may be, just so it cuts out different variables when it comes to your training. Because if you're eating lots of random stuff and then something happens in your training or your recovery, you don't really know what that thing is in terms of what's making it better or worse. So when you have things that are kind of consistent, you know, things are kind of down pat, and you add something or you take something out, it's very easy to identify what is working and what's not. So if you ask me, is there a certain diet? No, I don't believe in diets. I also don't believe in extremities. Like if you go too far left and say vegan or too far right to carnivore, they might help for the short term if you have a certain problem, but they're just not sustainable because you're just lacking too much. You're just too far left or right to one particular thing. And I think if you're too extreme in anything in life, it's going to be like that. You're going to lack something. There's no balance at all. And I think the body can't find homeostasis like that. And the body is about finding balance and homeostasis. And I think that applies to life in general. You just need to be more aware about where that balance is for you and what it is that you actually need, or what is it your body needs to sustain itself in the most optimal way.
Yeah. What would you say, is there some kind of process to that of like you're trying a certain diet or a certain type of food for a couple of weeks, or how long do you need to know whether it's working for you or not?
Like I said, you need to be kind of in tune. Your body will tell you if something is working or not. If you do like a certain diet for, let's say, a month, and you can see or feel that your energy levels are depleting, or you don't feel as good, or you feel bloated, or you get some kind of allergies, then you already know that something is not working. So sometimes it doesn't really take that long. Sometimes it may take longer. But I think it's always good to experiment with things, which is what you should do in everything in life, is to experiment, because the more that you know, the more contrast you have in terms of how far have I explored with this? Maybe I should go to this direction. Because if you have nothing to compare against, then you don't really know where to sit with the information that you have. But the more information you have, then you can kind of narrow things down to what actually might work. Again, it's coming to the idea of, solving that puzzle, right? It's like you need to have all the pieces, try different things, try put this, doesn't work, try this, doesn't work, try this, doesn't work, try this, oh, it actually does work. And then trying to solve the rest of it. So yeah, it's super important to experiment, but in a way where it's manageable. So it's not like you're going to say, yeah, I'm going to experiment and I'm going to just completely flip my diet 180 degrees and just try everything that's completely different. That's not going to work because your body's going to freak out. It's similar if you do something in fitness. If you're lifting 10 kilo bench press to go to 100 kilo bench press, it's too much of a shock. The body can't handle it. So you need to kind of progressively change things, shift things, and then just sit with it, analyze, ask yourself these questions. How do I feel before and after the meal? Do I feel better? And go from there. It's kind of like just flowing with the process. But yeah, it's super intuitive. It's not something that someone can say to you that you should do this, you should do that. Because like I said, at the end of the day, everyone is different. And you need to understand your own body and how it works.
Gotta be a scientist and experiment and see what's part of the puzzle and what's not. Yeah,
exactly. That's the whole challenge of life.
Yeah,
the whole journey of it.
I agree. Talking about diets, are mushrooms part of your diet?
Depends which kind of mushrooms you're referring to.
I'm talking about the psychedelic mushrooms.
I've taken mushrooms in the past, probably like 5 times now. That was more for the experience. Again, it's all about just trying different things. And for me, I'd try to go down the route of trying something that's more natural. I don't really like things that are kind of man-made and synthetic and not natural. So yeah, I've definitely tried mushrooms. I've tried weed. There's other things. But yeah, what are you trying to get at?
Just curious of what's your thoughts on mushrooms, or mushrooms? What has it taught you, if anything?
I think these kind of things, these psychedelics, they really enhance. They enhance your thoughts and feelings. So when people say they have a bad trip, I don't think that literally means a bad trip. I think it's enhancing whatever it is that's in their mind or what they feel. So if they had, let's say they just broke up with their boyfriend, they did mushrooms, oh, I had a bad trip. It's probably because it's just exaggerating their feelings of what it is from that relationship. So it just makes you feel more easier. It brings things out to the surface much easier. So I think if you have an intention behind why you're doing these things, it would help. But I think a lot of people take these things as a way to just run away and just to completely just not be where we are in this plane. Because when you do take mushrooms, it does feel like you're on a different plane. It does feel like you're on a different planet, or you're not here. Nothing exists.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's all about intention, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of this misconception that, oh, you're taking mushrooms because you're trying to escape reality. That could be true if that is one's intention. But if you have the intention of more discover more of reality, discover more of who you are, that will be the thing that you probably experience. Do you find any mushrooms like helping when it comes to like creativity for you to explore different things in your fitness or anything related like that?
In terms of creativity, for sure. In terms of fitness, I haven't really taken it enough to explore that avenue. Because generally when I take mushrooms, I feel super sleepy. But at the same time, I feel super aware. Like if I look at this mic, I'll be able to see every single little detail, and I'll just get these images that I probably would never even think of imagining. So it's sparks the creativity in that sense, where it heightens all your senses to be able to see, to imagine, to taste even, to feel, and to hear more. But again, since it makes me feel tired, I don't feel like moving. I just feel like lying there and just looking at stuff and just thinking, wow. So, no, maybe because I was taking too much too. So maybe if I microdosed it, maybe it'll be a different story.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually explored that path yet.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, have you tried microdosing? But that's the answer to that. Could you share, if you will, any of your recent intentions the last couple of times you took mushrooms?
Yeah. I think probably the third last time I took mushrooms. That was quite a while ago, actually. It's probably like a few years ago. At that time, I was in Bali and I was getting a lot of allergic reactions. I was getting all these reactions, mainly sometimes in my mouth, where my mouth would just puff up, my lips would puff up. So I'd look like I'd have like Russian lips, like this massive. Or I'd get like these bumps, allergies all over my body. And I really couldn't figure out what it was at that point in time. I was like changing my diet, I was shifting things. I went and saw like a specialist in terms of blood test and checking out my stools, my urine, changing up my sleep, changing up the way I ate, and still wasn't really fixing it. So then I did mushrooms one time, and my intention was to try to figure out what is this thing that's causing these reactions. Like, why is it that I cannot figure it out? And it had been happening for at least a year at that point. And I took it, and I think I actually took too much at that point in time, that I was like completely out of control. This was like in the bushes out in Munduk in the forest, all camping with two friends, and it's at nighttime. And I was around about, I think, 6 p.m. and I could not move. I was just like dead. I was not in my body at all. And I got to the point where we had to eat something. Otherwise, we weren't going to eat, because there was only like one restaurant at the time, which was like maybe 100 meters away. And I kept on thinking to myself, is this still 6 o'clock? And like 20 minutes passed. Is this still 6 o'clock? My mind was just like constantly on a cycle. And I felt so stuck. I couldn't move, but I knew that I had to eat. And I was just laughing with my friends, and I was so messed up at the time. It's just, I felt like I was trapped in this cycle. And then eventually, somehow, we made it up to this restaurant. It's kind of like oh, I'm here. You know, how quick do I get here? And then there's quite a lot of people there, and I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, there's people seeing me here. They probably think I'm weird or I'm some kind of drugs. And so that's when I was doing my best to try to be normal.
Keep it together.
Yeah, keep my shit together, because I could not keep my shit together at all. I was literally looking at the menu, and then the waitress come past. I'm still looking at the menu. I thought I had ordered. I hadn't ordered. I was still looking at the menu. I was like,
In another reality, you had ordered.
what's going on? You know, I was completely freaking out. And so I tried so hard to keep my shit together. I was so stressed until I got an allergic reaction in my lip. And I was like, oh shit, it's coming out again. And I think at that point in time, I realized these allergic reactions were coming from stress, like holding on to too much, like trying to control things too much. Which had been true. I'd always try to control things, always try to keep things in order in my life. Found it really hard to let go. And so I think the lesson from that mushroom trip was I need to let go. Like whatever it is, like if it's not out of my control, I just need to let it go, whatever it is. And so that's kind of the reason why I have this tattoo, is to signify flow, is to just simply let go and to remind myself of that. That the more I try to hold on to things, the more I'm going to suffer. And so, yeah, after that, the allergic reaction started to reduce, and I was able to be more relaxed about things and to see things a little bit more clearly, and to see the situations where I was holding on to things, I was able to let go of them much more easier. So that was one intention when I took mushrooms, and that was actually, so yeah.
Amazing. It's funny how I can relate to a lot of it, especially when it comes to trying to control things all my life. And yeah, I don't know. The moment that I saw you for the first time, I thought, oh, it feels a bit similar in a sense. I mean, different journeys, but still some similarities. Talk to me about control, and maybe a better word is discipline. Because you seem to be probably one of the most disciplined people I know in the gym. Are you disciplined in other areas of your life too? And how did that start? Where did it start? When did it start?
I think my discipline started when I was younger. I kind of was forced to do things on my own to some degree. I think that's just how I was brought up with my family, and I think my siblings were the same. Just because my parents, they speak Cantonese, and they migrate to Australia, and so they never really learned English that well, so their English is not that good. And they never taught me how to speak Cantonese. And I grew up in Australia, so I learned how to speak English. And so when we communicated, it was like a chicken and duck talking. Like I speak to them in English, they speak to me in Cantonese, and we'd only know so much of what we're saying. So the basic stuff in terms of communication would understand each other, but anything deeper we wouldn't understand. And so I felt like I didn't really have much to go off with that in terms of what I should do in my life. So I felt like I had to kind of try things on my own and put myself out there in terms of doing stuff. And so I found myself working at a quite early age, and then just buying things on my own. And because my parents were working on a farm, they also weren't making a lot of money. So I also didn't want to really use their money. So I did my best to be self-sufficient and independent at that point in time, where I'd do things on my own. So I think that's where it kind of started. I never really asked for help. I would always do things by myself. And because I had such a high expectation, I felt like if I asked people for help, they wouldn't be able to help me in the capacity where I'd expect it, and I'd get disappointed. So that's kind of a bad thing for me. Like I don't ask people for help in that regard, which I've slowly started to let go of. But in terms of fitness, I think it's important to have goals or understand why you're doing things. Then I think you can be quite disciplined. I feel like I'm not disciplined in some other aspects. I feel like I can be very lazy when it comes to putting my clothes away. So when I just throw my clothes away into some random place and never put it back in a certain spot, which fortunately my girlfriend gets pretty annoyed with me about.
You're not happy about that part?
But I feel like if you're disciplined, what matters in your life and what's important, um, then it's easy to do it. If you have a goal, you have a value in regards to that, then it's easier to keep going. So I feel like I'm very disciplined in terms of my recovery, in terms of my nutrition, what I eat, and in terms of how I train. Because these are all the three pillars that go into the one that help me to do and achieve what it is that I want to achieve. So having that experience of being disciplined, I think it is easy to apply to other things in life if you feel like it's something that you want to strive towards. But again, it must be something that you enjoy or feel like there is a purpose towards doing. Then you'll do it. Otherwise, there's no purpose. You're not going to do it, and you'll just fall off the
wagon.
Wagon, what do you want to call it? Yeah,
fall off the path. Yeah, I had plenty of learnings in that regard too. And for me, I don't know if you relate to this, where like these days or these last couple of years, it's almost becoming a lot of like that I need to untrain discipline and untrain the way of like having control. I was like, and it almost started where, like, shout out to you, of like 8 weeks with Will coaching. I learned muscle ups in the bar, in the ring, and stuff like that. But it was right at that point where I'm usually disciplined as fuck, and this became almost like that period. It started for me where I should chill a bit. If I want to play a bit of paddle and soccer, I should do that as well, instead of doing 6 times a week, which I kind of communicated to Will, and here we are, and doing 5 times a week or 4 times a week. Like,
yeah. I can completely agree with that. I think things kind of changed with me a little bit when I got a girlfriend. As you know, when you get a girlfriend, they want some of your time. And so you have to kind of shift some of the time that you would spend doing what you love, whatever it may be. For me, as going to the gym. If I don't have a girlfriend, I'll probably be at the gym 7 days a week. But now that I have a girlfriend, I only go like 5 times a week. So it's managing your priorities and trying to find, again, that balance of what works and what doesn't. So yeah, I can totally relate to that in terms of trying to find what works and how to actually make everything work together.
Yeah.
So everything is happy. You're happy, she's happy, whatever is happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are a few hobbies that you have outside of fitness that people would be surprised by?
Hobbies outside? One thing that I used to do a lot of, I haven't done for quite some time now, was scuba diving. I used to do that nearly every weekend, especially when I was in Australia. But since I've been here in Bali, I haven't done as much. I think because I'm trying to focus more on my fitness stuff in terms of the business side of things, where I don't feel like I don't have as much time. But I loved scuba diving because I loved also doing photography. And so doing those hand in hand was something I really enjoyed. If you asked me to just scuba dive for the sake of scuba diving, I probably wouldn't do it. But if you gave me a camera and scuba dive, then I'll say yeah. Because I love taking photos, and the things I love taking photos of is the really small things. So I do have another Instagram account that I have not updated for a very long time, which is specifically and dedicated to just underwater critters. And so I'd have this massive camera setup, which I still have. And then I'll go down and try to take photos of things that are like this big, like this big. Or I'll spend like maybe 5-10 minutes trying to photograph them. And that I found a lot of meditation through, a lot of fulfillment through. Because when you have a look at the thing underwater, you can't really see it with your own bare eyes. But then when you see it and take a photo of it on your camera, you see all the details of it. And it's just super amazing, super crazy. The things that you would see, like, wow, I never thought something like that would exist down here. And so it gives you much more appreciation of life and perspective as well. Like, there is so much to see down there. There's just a completely different world down there from what we are up here, on the surface. So yeah, it's just gives you more appreciation of life. That's one of my hobbies that I would love to get back into at some stage in the future, for sure.
Sounds like a creative side once again. Creativity there.
Yeah, definitely. It's creative and it's also a sense of freedom. Being in the water is like a feeling of just floating.
Hmm.
If you ever scuba dived, maybe not so much when you have the equipment, because it does give you this sense of control and being weighed down. But just even free diving, if you've ever done free diving in the ocean, it gives you the sense of just freeness, freedom, and just time doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And so you combine that with something that's more creative, like taking photographs. It's just capturing memories, capturing moments, and capturing things. So that's what I kind of love, that aspect of the underwater world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What about baking? I'm still waiting for you I could try your bakeries.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of baking in the past. I think that's also because my father was a chef.
Uh,
He didn't really bake. He was more like a Chinese chef, cooking Cantonese type of foods. He never really taught me how to cook. It was more just me standing just outside the kitchen watching him, because he was like one of those kitchen Nazis where he doesn't want anything to be touched. Everything has to be clean.
Right.
Don't touch anything here. This is my space.
I hear control is coming from someplace.
Yeah. Well, it could be from here. So yeah, I was just always constantly just watching him, and I was just super fascinated with how he cooked. And so I think I just, when I started the same, I was like, oh, this is super fun. You know, it's like combining these different ingredients of different flavors. And again, there is no right or wrong. It's just experimenting. As long as you kind of understand what this flavor tastes like in the texture, then you can kind of combine it with other ingredients in a way where it's going to work. And so again, there is this creative process. And the reason why I like baking is because it's hardest to break the rules of baking, because you might need a certain amount of flour, egg, or baking soda, baking powder. If you're one of those off, it's going to completely fuck the cake up. And so I like the challenge of trying to just shift these little equations and try to add things, take things out to see how it would turn out. And for the most part, I'll probably just eat a slice and I'll just give it away. For me, I found the enjoyment of actually cooking or baking what it is and just trying to figure things out. Not so much eating it. Because again, it's like, oh, I have one slice, I'm done. Like I can't eat any more of this. It's too sweet. But yeah, I used to bake like every week, just looking at recipes and then just kind of just changing them up and just trying to make them my own. So I make these kind of crazy creative things, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a creative outlet just to see what would happen, experiment, just seeing how ingredients react. Like, why did it turn out like this? How do I make it like this? What ingredient do I need to make it look like this? Yeah.
Keep on experimenting, keep on exploring, whether it's baking, scuba diving, fitness, or photography.
Trying to make sense of things. You know, like it's just interesting how each ingredient has its own different property, and then just trying to understand what does this property do? How does it affect other things? It's just the whole thing of just being curious and just trying to make sense of things. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't really baked recently, but maybe soon.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll make you something.
You can come back, yeah. What do you think about the future with family life? Are you have kids in the future?
To be honest,
maybe bake with your kids.
I've never thought about having kids. It's just nothing that has occurred to me in my mind. If anything, I'd love to have a lot of dogs, maybe even animals. But my own babies, I don't know.
Why not, do you think? If I may ask.
I think it's the whole responsibility. Like I feel like, and maybe I'm probably wrong, I'm pretty sure I could work around it. But if I have like a kid, then I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of time looking after. It's going to be like sleepless nights. I mean, my sister just had a baby. She's had 2 now. She tells me how tired she is, how much hard work it is. She's always at home. She'll look after it. So I feel like, oh, it's going to mess up with my training.
Less control, less freedom.
I'm going to be able to sleep my 8 hours a night. My food's going to be off. You know, it's going to put everything out of whack for me. But again, I'm sure I could work my way around it. It's just that's the thing that's kind of deterring me from wanting to have a kid, is that aspect. Um, maybe if I just adopted a kid that's already like, 8 years old, cut the work out, that might work. But I don't know.
Find a way.
I think at some stage maybe I'll come to that way of thinking where I want to have a kid.
Yeah.
But it might happen probably when I've fulfilled more of my bigger goals. Like in terms of maybe starting a studio, starting a gym. Once I've fulfilled those kind of things and I've reached that point of purpose in terms of helping people, then I might start having a kid and then teach him how to do some crazy stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. Then kids might be on the table. Yeah. No, cool. In regards to that, what would you say your mission is? Do you have a mission with if you were to start a gym and a studio?
Yeah, I mean, the goal would be to start a gym that would be somewhat similar to what Nirvana used to be. Because I can hear so many people that I talk to that have been to Nirvana. Like, oh, I've never seen this kind of gym anywhere in the world. And now that it's gone, this doesn't exist here anymore in Bali. It's like, where else do I train? It's like, when I go where there's that kind of like-minded community where I can grow, where I can do different things, be with like-minded people. So I'd love to be able to bring that back, because when I'm here in Bali and I go to the gym, I don't feel like I belong to a certain crowd. And I don't feel like I have people that I can bounce off and be inspired by, or to even motivate. Where before I felt very highly motivated and inspired. And I think that's the reason why I grew so fast in the span of maybe 3 years. Because before I came to Bali, I actually didn't do that much crazy stuff. I just did some calisthenics. I was pretty strong. As crazy as it got, I probably did like maybe one arm chin up, handstand push up. That's it. And it was pretty lame. It wasn't like super clean. It was pretty like banana backed. But when I came to Bali and I met all these inspiring people, had this community around me, it was just like, wow, it kind of just opened my eyes up to a wholly complete different world. And I grew from that. So from that experience, I'd love to be able to bring that back and have community of those people where you just feel like you're a part of something, a part of a community, which I feel like is what something is lacking here. Just trying to find like a second home. So I'd love to be able to build a space that would house something like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
And Bali would definitely be the place, not anywhere else.
I'm open to different places, but I feel like I'm here in Bali at the moment, and I'd love to be able to try and make that work here. And if not, I am always open to other places as well. But yeah, definitely, I think the biggest factor here is community. Yeah. Not so much the gym space. I don't think that matters as much. It doesn't need to be like super elegant, luxurious, or pretty. As long as it houses an open space for people to be creative and to think and to use their body, as opposed to just having a whole bunch of machines where it's very linear, then that's what I want. I would love to be able to have something that helps to facilitate movement and critical thinking. Yeah.
Why would you say like Bali for you? What are the things you value about Bali?
I feel like Bali is like a fitness hub of Asia. There's so many gyms here, and they all seem to be relatively busy. There's a lot of fitness people here. There's essentially a lot of influencers. There's a lot of coaches here as well. Not that I want to attract these influencers, but I love Bali in terms of it feels more free here.
Yeah.
Like if I think about if I open a space up in, let's say, Australia, I just feel like Australia is not the place for me. And the reason why I left Australia is because I felt like I was too safe. It was too comfortable. It was too nanny. It was too many rules. Where I feel like Bali, it's just much more open. It's much more free. It doesn't have as many rules. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have rules where I'm going to break them, but it's just more like there's just more space to breathe. There's more space to be creative and not so many constraints to tie you down. And so I feel like with that, it brings those kind of people, like-minded people, creative people in a community where people want to be open. And just Bali in general, I love Bali. Just the culture, the people, the Balinese people, they're super nice, they're honest. So yeah, I think for now it would be Bali.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd probably be somewhere else in Asia. That's where I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people are very holistic health minded here, and they're very open minded in general.
For sure.
All of that combined is nice with fitness, but also diet and way of living life with close to nature, and movement is important, and exploration, whether it's like with movement, physical movement, or spirituality.
It seems more progressive in the health aspect, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, even though all this kind of mobility, these health things, holistic approaches exist here, I don't see it as much in other places around the world, especially in Australia. Like, when I went back to Australia last year, I went to the gyms there. They were just literally just bodybuilding gyms. Like, there's no sign of calisthenics or mobility. So it felt like very outdated. And I think the people there were also, the mindset was also outdated. Maybe they don't want to grow. I don't know. But I just feel like here it's just like very progressive. Everything is just trying to get better, trying to explore, trying to be more creative. So I kind of feel like I can thrive off that kind of energy to, achieve what it is that I want to achieve.
And I feel you. What does deeply aligned mean to you?
What does deeply aligned mean to me? I think deeply aligned would be connected in all different spheres or planes, whether it be your physical, your mental, and spiritual. It could be other things outside of that, but the main idea would be to have everything connected and centered, where everything is cohesive and works as one different unit. Because if your mind is not connected with your body, then you're not going to perform as optimally. So if I say I'm at the gym, I'm trying to do some sort of movement, but my mind is not there. I'm not connecting to my body in terms of, I don't know what muscles I'm using. I'm not very aware of where my body is in the space. Then you're not going to be very efficient in what it is that you're trying to achieve. But if you're connected with your body, you know exactly what's happening, where you're at in space, what muscles are being used, what you need to do, what your limitations are, then it makes things a little bit more limitless. So I think deeply aligned is being connected to your true self, connected to everything intuitively as well. Like what's happening inside of your body. So not just externally, but also internally, intrinsically. What's happening with your digestion? What's happening with your insides? Do you feel something happening? Can you actually identify how these things feel? Can you identify what pain feels, what discomfort feels like, what your limits are? And to be able to act upon that efficiently without actually ignoring what your body's telling you, then I think that's what, for me, is what deeply aligned would be.
I like it. It's like we said before, a theme is really experiment, be a scientist. And this is about you experiment with externally with your body, but also internally, and see how that feels intuitively as well. Your mind, your emotions, all of it. Yeah. And see what works for you more and more.
Yeah. I think the problem these days is that people take information without thinking. They just absorb what they've been told. And because of that, they become kind of brain dead. And so they don't really know themselves. They don't really know much else. They listen to whatever is on the news as to be true and absolute. So I think that's where you see like a lot of things, and even on social media, where people are saying, oh, this is the right way to do this movement. This is the wrong way. You might have seen this a lot on social media. And that kind of annoys me. It's like, guys, like there is no such thing as right or wrong here. There is no limitations on movement. It's depending on what that person's intention is will define whether that is right or wrong for them. But yeah, I think that's that's the beauty of life, is to be able to think and not to be told. Because I think a lot of people feel like they have so much knowledge because they read so much. They've got like a whole bunch of books that they've read. But actually, how much do they actually absorb from that and then implement that into their life as knowledge that they can use? And you can only do that by actually thinking.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to be, safe and comfortable by not thinking. I think once you think, that's when things get complicated and to some degree annoying.
Yeah. I agree.
Like you keep questioning things. I think with things like, let's say, religion. I don't really want to talk about religion, but if you believe in some sort of dogmatic or a formula or system, it's very easy to become comfortable in that. But then as soon as you get taken outside of that and start questioning things, that's when things become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's where we should be. We should always be to some level uncomfortable in our life. If we're too comfortable, we're not learning.
Yeah, it's comfortable being inside of the box, right?
Yeah.
And just getting a bit uncomfortable, but also a bit exciting to be right at the edge of the box. Maybe I want to try and experiment turning it into a circle or something else. Like, expand the box. Yeah.
There's always good to have some level of confidence stability, but again, there's always good to have some level of discomfort within that. Because if you're too comfortable, you're not going to grow. If you're too uncomfortable, you're probably going to be too stressed out and you're going to go back. So you need to find the balance of having both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find a balance of how much you're going to try to control things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can control what it is within your means, but then there's so many things out of control that aren't within your means that you have no choice but to let go. And it's a matter of whether you can let go or not. How's that going to affect you?
Yeah.
So again, it's very much of a mindset thing.
Yes. We're coming towards an end. Is there anything you feel like we haven't touched upon that you'd like us to expand further?
I could definitely go on about talking about many, many things, but again, it's like if you ask me things, I will talk, but I can't just think of something to talk about because there's just so many things going on. Yeah. It's like it's like a book. If you want to know something, I'll just take it out of my thing, what I know, and I can share with you what my thoughts and perspectives are. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to talk.
Are we gonna see you more on more of these kind of settings with longer form content?
I think that's the goal. I don't really like being in front of the camera, to be honest. I think that's one of my weaknesses, is being up on stage and then talking confidently like this. But I know that's something that I need.
So, I think you're doing a good job. And I'm pretty sure people will love this and appreciate this. Yeah.
But yeah, if you ask me, then that would be something I should and probably will start doing more in the future. For sure.
Outside of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the first podcast I didn't even listen to it because I don't want to listen to my voice. I don't want to listen to what I said. It's like, for me, it's like, it's a bit cringy if I listen to myself. But I know I should probably actually listen to myself so I can get, feedback on what I can improve.
Like, this is the God's honest truth of, I listened to that podcast, and after that, I decided I wanted to get your coaching.
Oh, fair.
Because for one, that's you're extremely good at what you do. Two, I liked all the things you shared in there of like being very present in your workout, keep on being creative, keep on exploring. Like that was like, it hit a point.
Well, there you go. I guess it's just a matter of getting myself more out there and sharing myself.
Yeah, I think so. I know so. Who's the person you'd love to see on this podcast and that you think would be an interesting one to shoot some more deeper questions to?
There's one person I can think of, but I don't know if you'd better get him. It'd be Devin Kelly.
Devin Kelly.
Yeah. He used to train at Nirvana. And he's an awesome mover, like amazing mover. Super disciplined. But yeah, now he's training at home as for what I believe.
Hmm.
But he's a very, very deeply thought out person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk to someone that's quite deep, I'd suggest to talk to that guy. Yeah.
Just quickly, what are a few things you'd like to know about him? Or maybe let's put it like this, because sometimes we're trying to have you forward a question to a next guest. Just imagine that he would be the next guest. What would you like to ask him?
I don't know. There's so many questions I can probably ask him. But I don't know. I'd have to really think about that to think of a good question to ask him.
Yeah.
But I could say he's a very deep person.
Nice. We
in the
like
way he
that.
thinks. But yeah, if you ask me the top of my mind, I can't think of one right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Can send me one afterwards.
Yeah, I'll definitely send him what I want. I want to ask him.
Yeah. This has been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, which is WSoo, WSOO _movement, MVMT. And you'll find all the stuff that I do there and my coaching as well.
Some crazy stuff being posted there, guys. The reels.
Not so
What is
crazy.
it? Play/102?
154, I think now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just my play videos, just me exploring things.
Yeah. Levitation squats and whatnot.
Yeah. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
Steroids.
Awesome. Super inspiring, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on here.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.